All right, folks, that was a good time all day covering college football, watching college football, the game situations, the athleticism, the drama, and of course, just the game results themselves. Just fun day of college football. We will do our best to get to all of it. And of course, here at the Voice of College Football on our big Saturday night wrap-up show, we take your calls. We have left the link in the chat. So you are the star. You are the producer tonight. However, I'm the ultimate producer. And because of that, we have a bit of a scheduling conflict and an update here at the Voice of College Football. So we are going to obviously start our show. And at the conclusion of the Ole Miss-LSU game, we are going to stop down here. And we are going to, I've got to run and do the Ole Miss postgame show. But that's going to be right here. So you can keep it right here at the Voice of College Football, right on the main channel. And we will do our Ole Miss-LSU postgame with Leanne Herring. And then as soon as we wrap up with that, we will start another stream and we will finish our Saturday night call-in show. So please give me a call here at the Voice of College Football. I will answer and respond to your comments and questions. We appreciate your super chat contributions. All right, let's go to the scoreboard and then we'll start to take calls. And again, we're going to keep an eye on this Ole Miss-LSU game. I was watching Ole Miss-LSU and Ohio State-Oregon at the same time. That was my setup for the night. Those were two of the obvious choices tonight as the marquee games in college football tonight. But what a day starting at noon Eastern time. In progress tonight, 4 minutes left in the third quarter. Western Michigan leads Akron 31-24. I've got to figure that there was some kind of delay there at Western Michigan, probably the same front that delayed the Notre Dame-Stanford game for a while. Also in progress, we've got Ole Miss leads LSU with about 8 minutes left. They're under 8 minutes in Death Valley. LSU's got the football in its own territory, trailing Ole Miss. Big game in the SEC, 20-16. Vanderbilt on top of Kentucky. The Wildcats have the ball, a second down and 22 at their own 40. They need a touchdown to send the game into overtime. Vandy could be pulling off another upset, of which they were a 12 or 13-point dog against Kentucky. Vandy leads 20-13 with 1:46 on the clock. Iowa State could be taking a huge step in the Big 12. They lead West Virginia by 12, 28-16 with 1:10 left in the fourth quarter. Iowa State, again, leading West Virginia, looking to go to 3-0 in the Big 12. Hopefully you got my predictions on Patreon or as a YouTube channel member right here today, because we are tearing it up pretty well. Syracuse, 2 minutes left to play at NC State, and the Cuse leads at 24-14, and Syracuse looking to move their record to 5-1 in the fourth quarter at Georgia Southern. Marshall leads 23-5. Minnesota at UCLA at the Rose Bowl. 7 minutes left in the third quarter, so it's going to be a while before this game's over. UCLA trails at home against Minnesota 14-10. Excellent game. I would anticipate this one. We talked about this one all week. Kansas State, Colorado tied at 7, and they just started the second quarter. Boise State at Hawaii, always the last kickoff, that late game in the islands, and there's no score. They just kicked off in the first quarter, and then we've got our final, or our last game to go final was Rice over Texas San Antonio 29-27. Of course, the big one tonight, Ohio State goes down at Oregon. Final score there, 32-21. Buckeyes led at 31-29. Oregon with a late field goal, and Ohio State hurriedly down the field, did not have enough time to convert. And Will Howard thought he could escape the pocket and down the football and still have time to kick a field goal. So great football game. Very, very marred game by mistakes and penalties and all sorts of things, but great drama at Autzen Stadium. Great game in the Big Ten. Two excellent games in the Big Ten. The marquee games were tremendous with Ohio State, Oregon, and USC and Penn State, and of course in the SEC. I don't know what the status is of Florida, Tennessee. They were going to overtime, and somebody must have won that ball game because it was not in the in progress scores. So Florida, Tennessee, that was a heck of a ball game. I was trying to keep my eye on that, as well as watch LSU and Tennessee and Ole Miss and Bama, South Carolina today. Great day all around. All right, let's take your calls. And again, I will answer all your comments and questions with the Super Chat contribution that you bring forth tonight. Caden's stopping by to talk some college football.
Congratulations, Mark Rogers, the moron. You have one-up me this season.
Yeah, you're just an idiot. So we're not tolerating, I put up with so much. And I say that in a way, meaning I don't care. People call me names and so forth and write stupid comments in the comments. But you know what, Caden? Not tonight. Just be an idiot by yourself tonight. Okay, we've got much better callers. We can do so much better than that. And I know Nick can do so much better than that. Nick and I, on a regular basis, have intelligent conversations. So, Nick, I'm counting on you to get us off to. We got too many people watching. We got too many really good games for some moron to call up and just be an idiot. Okay, Nick.
Yeah.
Good to have you here.
I'm really confused. I don't know what that dude's issue is. Never even heard him call him before, so I don't know if there's a history there or what. But
no, he just he started calling us about 2 weeks ago, which is great. I want as many viewers as possible, but he basically calls in and says the same thing every night. So
okay.
and he was extremely on the mark in predicting that Ohio State would defeat Oregon, Michigan, and Penn State all by at least 50 points.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So at least he called in and after being wrong.
I mean, honestly, I'm jealous. He must have a really good source. So that must be some really good cocaine. I'm actually kind of jealous if he's that high.
That could be it.
I don't know.
Could be it.
But anyway, so yeah, I'll try my best to keep this somewhat competent and try to not let my Michigan bias get the best of me here. What was Will Howard's stat line? I should have looked it up.
It was pretty good. I know that. The last I saw it late in the game.
Yeah, so I guess before this game, I kind of felt like Will Howard was definitely above average, but definitely, and I think he still does have jag tendencies. I'm not gonna crush him too much. It definitely was a mistake at the end of that game to obviously, do what he did. Just take too much. It was just a panic move a little bit, but I mean, it happens. It happens.
I don't. It was the wrong move to make. Yeah, he just did not have enough time. Obviously, he had nobody open, and yeah, I think he's a really good quarterback. I don't think he's elite in any way, but I don't know that there are that many elite quarterbacks in college football. There's a few. Yeah. There's a few that are much better than him, but I thought he played really well.
Well, and obviously Jeremiah Smith, it just continues to be an absolute animal. I'm really not, honestly, I know there's going to be a lot of jokes and everything. I'm really not concerned. If anything, I'm a little bit surprised Oregon won the game. They were actually kind of trying to do their best to hand it away with some of mistakes. There was mistakes made on both sides, but some of the decision making, man, I don't know, these coaches. I just wanted a quick side note, and then I got one more point, then I'll let you go because I know you have a lot of callers. But these coaches and clock management, is it just me or does it seem like it's getting worse?
Yeah, there have been some really bad ones this year. I wouldn't even rate anything that happened tonight to be anything close to the worst that I've seen this year.
I just can't. I can't figure out why it keeps happening. Like, maybe it's again. I'm not a coach in that situation, but if you're in a high pressured situation, try to keep things as simple and pay attention to the basics. And I don't know if these coaches get caught up in the flow of the game and stuff like that. But the clock management is just, it's getting pathetic
So
every week.
what's your specific issue tonight?
Okay, so tonight, it was specifically with clock management, you're saying, or
Yes.
just overall? Okay. Wasn't there, I'm trying to remember, earlier in the game, was it Oregon who didn't, maybe I'm thinking of a different game. Oh, no, I think that was a different game. Maybe there was a game earlier. Was it USC or Penn State? There was another game today where one team was not even going to call a timeout. It might have been right before halftime. Might have been USC. I'll have to look it up, but it was an egregious clock management. Been kind of a long day for me. Egregious clock management issue, but I don't know. I would have to go back and sit down for a minute. You kind of had me on the spot, but there's just been. I guess
since this is the point to your call, or at least this part of the call, that's why I'm just asking for something specific, because I'm not. I've seen a lot this year, and I don't remember seeing anything today that stuck out to me.
Yeah, I'm trying to. It happened again today. I can't remember the exact game, but I've just been seeing it week after week. I guess kind of my issue is not with any specific point that happened today. It just seems like it just keeps happening, and it's like, guys, like, I maybe it's stressed a lot, but I don't know why the same major error keeps happening again with clock management. But I guess they just get caught up in the game. But anyway. Next game, last game for you, Purdue, Illinois.
Yep.
A classic Big Ten. Oh wait, 49-50. Ball game. Obviously, Purdue, not a good football team. How concerned are you with Illinois right now?
I even went to the point last night when somebody asked me, and I said Purdue was by far the worst team in the Big Ten, because I certainly think that up until this performance against Illinois, they had played far worse than even UCLA. They were by far the worst team in the Big Ten. But today, now I saw none of this game, so I've got nothing to offer except, of course, they got down by a ton of points and they were able to come back and force overtime, and then well, not really force overtime. They actually should have won the game. I know that they had a touchdown lead, and Illinois pulled out the tying score, or they had a field goal lead, and Illinois drove and sent it to overtime, and then won the game in overtime. I did see a couple plays near the end of the game and into overtime, but I didn't see enough to have some kind of review on what went wrong for Illinois, besides their defense. Purdue's offense has been atrocious this year. Has been ridiculously just awful. They didn't score a touchdown against Notre Dame until it didn't matter. Didn't score a point in that game until it was complete garbage time, 59 or whatever to nothing. And they didn't score a touchdown against Nebraska until it didn't matter, with like 30 seconds left of the game. Just over and over, they've been horrendous. And for them to score that many points, and Hudson Card was out, and they were starting a freshman quarterback. So maybe there's your answer.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that makes sense. I'm with you. I did not watch any of that game. I literally just looked up the score right before I called in, and I was like, holy crap. Jeez, so I'll have to go back and look up highlights of that. But, yeah, still not convinced Michigan is going to beat Illinois, because I'm not convinced Michigan is going to beat any team remaining on their schedule with what's going on there. But, yeah, Ohio State is definitely in the mix. Both of these teams are probably – I'm going to guess at this point that there will be the chances of a rematch are pretty high. I'm not a believer in Penn State. They should not – USC choked that game away, in my opinion. And then I just thought of the game that I was referencing with clock management issue. It was South Carolina, Alabama. Did you watch the end of that game?
I watched that entire game, but I'm always watching a few games at the same time, so I don't remember anything in particular.
Yeah. So South Carolina recovered the onside. I think it was an onside kick. They had 40 seconds left, and I think they only got off like 2 plays.
34. Yeah. Well, you know what happened?
So-
I don't know if they had any timeouts. Number one, I don't think they had any timeouts. And they had an offensive lineman catch a batted pass. So the offensive lineman makes a mistake, which is understandable. Like anytime that happens, I don't fault an offensive lineman who does not expect a ball to be floating in the air above his head, and all of a sudden it's just instinct. He caught the football, and so he only gained like 3 yards, and they lost like 25 seconds.
The only issue, though, is like you need to get up to the line. You need to spike the ball. Like, don't take the extra time to actually run a competent play. You need all the seconds in the world.
Sure. Yeah.
Like, the quarterback gets up to the line and they're in their formation. And like 6 or 7 seconds goes by. And it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I would have to go back and watch it. Are you sure that they only ran 2 plays?
It might have been 3, but I know
they ran more than 2 plays.
They got 2 plays off in 30 seconds of game time. It was either 28 seconds, about 30 seconds. But like in that situation, you're at midfield.
Yes.
You've got to spike the ball. You do not have time to.
Well, I think we might be confusing when we talk about clock management, and maybe I misheard your criticism. It obviously goes to the coaches first and foremost. It's their responsibility. But when you have no timeouts and the game is in the hands of the quarterback at that point to a certain extent, you can only do so much on the sideline, screaming and yelling and telling him what to do. He has to be well coached on what to do in certain situations.
Yeah, I guess I just have. I think just at this level, I understand that. I just think that's a poor explanation. These guys are D1. They're getting paid now. They're basically pros. You're playing this sport at such a high level. It is your sport. You've probably played it your entire life.
Sure.
I just don't understand, especially the quarterback. I mean, I understand a lot's going on, but just in my mind, especially you run the 2-minute drills every week. You're spiking the ball. Like, you get to the line. That's drilled into their head. Now, again, it's live game. I get it. So it happens.
I would have to go back and look at that sequence to know. But your point about them making money now, if we want to hold them accountable, more accountable because they're making money, I have no issue with that. I agree with you. But that doesn't mean that they're working any harder or longer or studying film or doing any of those things anymore today than they were 5 years ago.
I guess just what drives me nuts, if you go back and you look at that game, there was actually just one of the 2 or 3 plays they got off in 30 seconds that they were in. Like, they were trying, they clearly did not have enough time. If you just glanced at the clock, which in that situation, I don't know how a quarterback is not aware of the clock. If you just even glance at it for a split second, you can see that the only option is to spike the ball. There's too much time coming off the clock. He's trying to call a play. It's loud. It's chaotic. Some dudes probably aren't hearing it. They finally get in their formation, and then they wait to hike it for another 6 or 7 seconds. I'll have to go back and double check that to make sure that's the game. But that was the most egregious thing to me, the most annoying thing, because I'm putting myself in the shoes of a South Carolina fan. And your team's in their formation, and there's just second tick, 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 and you're like, what are you doing? So I don't know.
I've seen far worse this year, both by players and by coaches.
Yeah, that's for sure.
But you're right. That could have been handled much better. Now, especially flipping back to your side, I'll take back your argument is that you get an onside kick and you've got, as a head coach, that's your desperation move, and you got to get these onside kicks. So you got to be planning that we're going to get the onside kick. So you're talking to your quarterback saying, don't take a sack, throw the ball away. If such and such happens, spike the ball. You get a 15-yard completion, you run up to the line of scrimmage, you spike the ball. you remind him of a few basic tenets to quarterbacking in the final 30 seconds of a game with no timeouts.
Well, and you have comms now too. So it's like the coaches can be on there screaming him, like as soon as that offensive lineman, like you don't even have time to yell at him, obviously. As soon as he catches it, just scream. I find it really hard to imagine that whoever was on the comms was not screaming right away, spike the ball. So
the only reason I'm wrapping up this conversation is I doubt that many people watching care about the Alabama-South Carolina time management issues from noon.
Yeah. No, that's fair. And I know you have other callers to get to. So thanks for taking my call.
Thanks, Nick. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Before we take the next call, we got a super chat coming in from Ramez Herrick, Michigan fan. Love you, Mark. That's nice to know. Thank you for that. Don't worry about that call. I don't know what the call is. Maybe the call is the Jeremiah Smith call. I don't know that they showed a replay on that call. Did they? But as soon as the flag came out, I figured, well, that's what it was. That's how he gained that separation on that final completion, or the final completion. Was not the final completion. I think there was one more after that too. Yeah, that's what cost Ohio State the game, basically. A lot of things cost them the game, of course, but in the moment, they would have had a shot at a makeable field goal because he just caught a pass that went to the 30? Or did the Ibuka play get them to, I would have to go through the yardage situation, but Jeremiah Smith catches this pass to get them another 7 or 8 yards. They're in makeable field goal range. They lose 15 because of the pass interference call. They're back to 3rd and 25 and forget it from there. So that cost them the game, but it appeared, I believe it was the right call. I would love to see the play again. And I apologize to NBC if they did show the replay again and I somehow missed it. I don't know how I would have, but I don't remember there being a replay on that. I have been sorely disappointed with the production of some of these games. I'm usually wowed by them. I got to say, besides all of you watching sports and college football in particular all of your lives, I've worked in these trucks in these control rooms for years and years and years and years and years and years and years. So I've got a pretty high standard and I know what to look for. I know exactly at least what I think is competent production. And these networks have disappointed me somewhat this year. All right, let's keep it rolling here at the Voice of College Football. We got Rob on the line. Rob, what's going on?
Hey, Mark, what's cracking?
Not too much. How are you?
Hey, good. I'm really good. I think the reference that guy was talking about as far as the call goes was that idiot caller that you had, that first call.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's what he was talking about, but I could be wrong.
Oh yeah, I don't worry about things like that.
No, you got
in life that I worry about.
Yeah, you're always going to have idiots that are, you just got.
I would normally keep him on the line and he could call me a moron as many times as he wants. I usually don't, but I'm just thinking, we just had this, it's not the middle of May. We're not arguing about 1962. If we were doing that, fine. Anybody can come on here and call me a moron as many times as you'd like. It really doesn't matter to me. It's more about, okay, we just had a great day of college football. We just had monumental games, and let's get down to it.
Yeah, and it's still going with this LSU game too.
Yes.
But so I just wanted to say what's going on. Like, the SEC is not looking great right now, in my opinion. I mean, you got Alabama barely beating another unranked team. You got Georgia struggling with Mississippi State for most of the game. I mean, they ended up winning by 10 at the end, but I wouldn't say that was a strong showing for them. I think it's clear to me now that, Texas, of course, they look great. I mean, Texas looks like a legit number one team in the country, in my opinion. And I've said that for a while now. But I think Oregon now has the best win of the year. I think Oregon beating Ohio State like that in a great game, a great matchup. I think that's, to me, the most impressive win that any team has this year so far.
Oh, yeah. I totally agree with that. Yes, I do. I'm right there with you. Although, Alabama, Georgia, I think they're very, very close. They were both at home. They were back and forth affairs. Well, Georgia, Alabama was a complete first half versus second half, of course. And the Oregon, Ohio State game was just back and forth, back and forth. I think it's arguable, but I would go with you on your selection.
Well, and here's the thing about Alabama, too, is that as other people have pointed out, Alabama's secondary especially has been like Swiss cheese. I mean, they have some serious problems on defense. They're not the Alabama of old. They don't scare anybody on defense. And we saw that in the second half of that Georgia game where Georgia basically stormed back and almost won that game. And then, of course, Alabama choking against Vanderbilt last week with a defense that just couldn't get it going at all during that game. So I don't think that, and Georgia, again, they've struggled against Kentucky. They're struggling with Mississippi State. I mean, they're not looking like world beaters this year either. Now, I'm not saying that the SEC is weak. I'm just saying that I think there's a lot more parity across college football this year than a lot of people are giving. Well, I think people are starting to come around on that now. They're kind of pointing that out, but we've seen like Alabama losing to Vanderbilt. I mean, that's like exhibition A, but then you had so many like teams losing to unranked teams last week. Plus, I mean, look at last night. Utah lost to Arizona State by a hefty margin. Of course, a lot of that had to do with Cam Rising's injury, I think. But, I mean, there's just lots of upsets, in college football this year. I'm not going to point out my own Notre Dame versus NIU upset that was disgusting. I guess I just did. But, yeah, lots of crazy games this year, Mark, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, it makes it fun. It makes it fun not to just think, okay, there's going to be two or three teams that are just going to carve everyone else up and meet in the national championship game, and there might be somebody that's got a shot. I think who knows how many teams can win games. I don't think Oregon's some super team. They could lose to all sorts of teams out there.
And, I mean, we saw them struggle the first couple games of the year.
Yeah. Yeah, really nothing happened today that really changed my mind about much other than Alabama not bouncing back and playing a strong game. For them to mess around with South Carolina and, to be very fortunate to win that game. I have less opinion of Alabama, certainly than I did 2 weeks ago, but even after that Vandy game, I thought that they would bounce back better against South Carolina. And as you mentioned, the Georgia thing, if it was isolated, this game that they played against Mississippi State tonight, that would be one thing. But they've done this now several times where they've played some inferior teams closer than they should. So they have some issues to clean up. Ohio State, I think they're an excellent team, and I think they might be the best team in the country, but they have some things to clean up. Their defense didn't look good tonight.
As we speak, it looks like LSU just got a touchdown or close to it.
Wow.
Nussmeier scrambled for his life, threw a pass, and I think the guy got knocked out at the end. I haven't watched any of this game. I was at my sister's birthday party all night, unfortunately. I want to watch this game, but yeah, it looks like it's going to be close.
Yeah, I was watching that game until I came out. Yeah, it was a really good game. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I'm loving all the games. I mean, this week has been great. Last week was a lot of fun too. So many upsets. Tennessee again with the SEC struggling. Like Tennessee barely beating unranked Florida, and we know Florida's not all that good. I don't know. It's weird to me. And then of course, how about USC versus Penn State? I did not expect USC to hang in there, and I mean, honestly, they really should have won. I kind of let Penn State come back and win that game.
Yeah, I think USC was the better team. I thought they outplayed Penn State. We're going to have to continue to track this trend of teams that have to travel 2 time zones because the only games that have been won are Indiana over UCLA, who is completely hapless, and this Penn State overtime game against USC. Everybody else has lost. These Big Ten teams are like 2-10 when they've got to travel 2 time zones, which I would normally say that's overplayed or overrated, but maybe not. It's becoming quite the trend. So on one hand, for Ohio State to travel out to Oregon and lose by 1 point, of course, they need to win these games against the best teams that they play, but I'm not that concerned about it.
Yeah, that was kind of heartbreaking. I mean, I'm not an Ohio State fan by any means, but I really thought that they were going to win that game, and I thought they were going to win it convincingly. So, boy, was I wrong. Oregon, all credit to them for showing up and showing out. I mean, they put on a heck of a performance. Of course, that's Dan Lanning's first win against a top 5 team, so congrats to him as well, I guess.
Yeah, now once we got into the game, and Ohio State lost 2 of their offensive linemen, although one came back at some point. From then on, I thought that it could be a rough go for Ohio State. So I don't want to say surprised. I would have guessed that maybe they would have lost more convincingly after that happened.
What do you think about Will Howard sliding at the end there? I mean, I honestly, my jaw was dropped. I couldn't believe that happened. I mean, I know he's a transfer quarterback, but he's a veteran, and especially with Ryan Day, I just that shocked me more than almost anything else I've seen this week.
Yeah, well, I don't know what the odds would be measuring him chucking up a football to nowhere. So we have to assume that nobody was open because we don't have the 22 film to watch. So we assume nobody was open. So for him to chuck up the football to whomever, even though they are some of the best receivers in the country, versus him taking off, and he obviously felt like he could time it out and set the ball and down it and get that accomplished. And he was off by quite a bit, because I don't know at what point the clock would have stopped after he slid. What he should have done is down the ball instead of sliding, because then you leave it up to the officials' interpretation rather than just giving yourself up and downing the football, just taking a knee. Seen that done many times. But yeah, I think there were 6 seconds left in the game. He dropped back to pass, and he obviously looked around, then he took off. So he had to know there wasn't much time at all. So he chanced it and he got burned.
Yeah, and I'm not one to hate on like college kids. I know they're young. It's a stressful situation for anybody to be in. But as someone watching the game, especially somebody that doesn't have a horse in the race, like I said, I'm not a fan of Oregon or Ohio State, but just a fan of good football. I really was just expecting it was a bit anticlimactic, I guess is what I'm saying. I would have preferred to see something like that Miami Hail Mary, happen at the end of the game, and put it into the hands of Jeremiah Smith, your playmakers. Just throw it up there and let them go for a jump ball.
Well, we don't know if they went to the end zone or not, or if they were wherever they were. I don't know. Right.
Yeah, I mean it's fine. I mean, I think Ohio State's going to bounce back. I mean, they're obviously still one of the best teams. I mean, I still think they're one of the top 3 teams in the country. Texas is my number 1. They've been my number 1 for a couple, like at least 3 or 4 weeks now, and I don't think anything tonight changes that for me. But I mean, Oregon sure looked good. I'll say that, and Ohio State too. I think those might be the 3 best teams in the country.
Yeah, they might be. I would still want to see more out of Georgia in particular, but those would be the 3 that, in addition to Georgia, that I would want to see.
Yeah,
but,
that's fair.
Yeah, the way things are going, Penn State's going to get their shot certainly in a couple of weeks against Ohio State.
Touchdown LSU, by the way.
Okay.
That's crazy. What a game, man.
Nice.
Yeah, Aaron Anderson. Yeah, so anyways, I just want to wrap this up. I know you got other callers. I'm going to let you go. But I want to give a shout out to Notre Dame for actually playing like Notre Dame should play against a bad team for a change. That felt pretty nice. And I will say this. I mean, Riley Leonard, I've been hard on him all year, rightfully so in some cases, but he's been getting a little bit better every week since that Miami of Ohio game. And he had 11 different receivers today. Bo Collins had a good day. Obviously, Jeremiah Love is a stud at running back, but I mean, Notre Dame's, their offense is finally starting to click. It only took almost half the season, but it's looking good for them going forward. So go Irish.
Okay, Rob, sounds good. Thanks for the call. Appreciate it.
Yeah, always a pleasure, Mark.
Thanks, Rob. Have a good night.
Later.
Yeah, Notre Dame wins 49-7 over Stanford. Did not see one play of that game. I will say that our buddy Steve Merrill at Wager Talk, that was his under-the-radar selection this week. Notre Dame covering 23 points. And so that was our exclusive under-the-radar selection right here at the Voice of College Football. Michael, thank you so much. Or no, that's Neil. Neil Campbell was coming in with the contribution tonight. Neil, thank you so much. Appreciate you being here. Of course, Neil is a Nevada fan who selected and purchased this helmet for us here at the Voice of College Football. So I grabbed this and made sure that this is front and center in our prime position there in honor of Neil. So Neil, thank you so much for that. He's happy that, of course, the curse is finally over, whatever that is, and Nevada won. And when we go through the scores, I will know exactly what that means, or at least that Nevada played somebody, because I have no idea who they played at this point. Okay, we'll keep it rolling here at the Voice of College Football. We want to remind everyone, I cannot stress this enough, the Amazon links in the description section of every video, including this one. And when you use the Amazon link, believe me, you can come on here and call me a dirty liar if this is not the case, that when you use the Amazon link, it doesn't change anything. It's like using the link that you are currently using. Amazon immediately identifies that, and it's completely instantaneous. So all your account information, credit information, purchase history, everything you would ever want is right there. And so please use the Amazon link, because it's the one way that you can support the Voice of College Football financially without spending a penny. So we would appreciate that you do that. All right, let's go to our next call. And it looks like Ole Miss and LSU are headed to overtime, although there are 12 seconds left in the game, and I don't know what the situation is, although LSU just scored. Welcome into the Voice of College Football. We got Christopher on the line.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, Chris. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
I'm sorry. I only caught the very back end of that. How it looked like, I'm looking at the screenshot right now, and it's just so you know where I'm coming from on it. It looked like he was down with time left. Now, I'm not trying to, twist the outcome to make it look like Ohio State, but I'm looking at the screenshot. His butt's on the ground. He's got the ball in his hands. It looks like there might even be an Ohio State player trying to make a timeout motion. I can't really tell from the screenshot, but it doesn't say 0-0-0. It says 0-0-1. Now, of course, that could mean anywhere between 0 and 1, but why didn't they review that to see, or is there not a possibility without timeouts? I don't understand.
Yeah, I would have to go to the official rule book to familiarize myself, and I'm sure I've come across this many times, but update myself, remind myself of what the official's obligation is to.
Well, not only is his butt on the ground, but it shows on the screenshot that Ohio State has a timeout left. So
yes,
to me, if he's down, there's nobody touching him, but if he's down and if there's no, if you didn't use your timeout, to me, there's no question that there's time on the clock. Maybe I'm wrong. If it's about time management, I don't know that he did anything wrong.
I would also think that Ryan Day is right next to the official, ready to call timeout as soon as the play was over. I would just think that would be kind of standard operating procedure, and it is for any coach in that type of situation. You see that all the time where they're standing right next to the official, waiting for the play to end, and as soon as it does, they're like, timeout, timeout, timeout.
Well, I'm not lying to you.
I don't know.
His butt's on the ground. He's got the ball in his hand.
No one accused you of lying, Chris.
Well, I've been accused of lying before. Well, anyway, it looks like he has the ball on the ground with his butt on the ground with nobody on him. There's like a player about 2 yards away from him. So does he have to be touched down? Can he be down by his own accord, or does he have to be touched to be down?
Well, it sounds like something we could investigate either during the course of this show, or we could produce some kind of video to look at the rule book, because like I said, when he first came on, I don't know what the obligation of the official is once some player has given themselves up. As I mentioned to the previous caller, if I was Will Howard, I would have downed the ball rather than slid.
Right. Well, at any rate, like I said, I'm not an official, so it doesn't really matter what I think, but there's no question that he's down with time left. So whatever that. Well, I mean, there's no question about it. There's time left with the timeout left. No question in my mind.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, he was probably even down before his butt hit the ground too, because as soon as the shin touches the ground, you're down.
I waited until his butt hit the ground before I froze the screen on the thing, but it only gives it in increments of 1 second. So it's anywhere between 0 and 1. It could be 1/100th of a second, 1/1,000,000th. I don't know, but it doesn't say all 0 on the screen. So unless the screen itself was wrong in terms of the way they presented it.
Well, we do have to realize that the network, they are supposed to be in sync with the official time, but that doesn't necessarily always happen.
Okay. Well, it just sounds like they were denied an opportunity to win the game, is what I'm trying to tell you.
It sounds like it, but I don't want to accuse the officials of that or whine and cry about the last play of the game. But you might be right. That's something I'm going to look at when I get a chance, because that's something to be investigated. When you got the number 1 and 3 teams in the country playing, then
you don't really have
it's
to.
a big deal.
He's down with time on the clock with the timeout, and it looks like maybe even Ohio State player signaling timeout. That part I'm not sure about, but it looks like there's an Ohio State player looking like he's about to make a timeout motion with time left on the clock. Now I don't know. Maybe I think does it have to be a designated player that calls the timeout? Maybe that's what the problem is. I don't know.
Can you answer me one other question?
Sure.
Now I'm forgetting what it was. What yard line was he on?
All right. The butt's about, it's between the 28 and 29 yard line. It looks like the ball's at the 28 with his butt on the ground. And it looks almost like, it looks like not only is his butt on the ground, it almost looks like his arm is close to being on the ground, but it's not quite there.
Pretty makeable field goal.
Well, that's where the ball would be spotted at, would be at the 28. It looks like, if they based it on what I'm looking at. So that'd be what? That would be a 48 yard field goal, maybe? 48 yard field goal? Okay. Not easy, but that's what I mean. I don't like it when games are decided by what? I don't even know what to call it. Chance? That's not what I don't want a game decided by chance. I want, I'd like to see them have a chance, and then if they make it, then they win. If they miss it, they don't. That's
well, if you're correct, it was decided by misofficiating. It was decided by the officials not doing their jobs.
Well,
but
I don't even know.
Again, I'm not going to accuse them of that until I review the situation.
Okay, well, that's fair enough, I guess. But I just don't like games decided by things other than what actually happens on the field, I guess.
I'm right there with you.
He knew how much time was left, and I don't think he didn't trip over himself. So he knew when to slide. So really, is it really a judgment call about when his butt hits the ground? Because if it's not, then he was down and there's time left and they should have a chance to kick a field goal. The only thing that would maybe caveat that would be if they didn't signal to the official that they were interested or whatever.
I think that's the key to the whole situation, is at what point did somebody get to an official, and it should be Ryan Day, to an official to call timeout.
Well, you really think Ryan Day is going to botch that? I don't think so.
No, like I say, it's pretty standard practice for coaches to stand right next to the official on the sideline so that they can call timeout immediately.
Well, that's kind of where I'm going with it. So it looks like, unless, like I said, the only thing that would maybe interfere with that being a possibility would be if the clock had expired and it wasn't showing it yet on the screen. Because I know the screen isn't necessarily the final thing, but I always thought they were pretty good at making those connect together without too much dispute.
So I should take your advisement and protest this game on behalf of Ohio State.
Oh, it doesn't. I don't know. I just don't like the game being decided on a judgment call that doesn't really seem to be fair.
I agree.
To either side, not just to. Would you like to win a game if you knew that the team had got it?
No.
I wouldn't feel good about a win
I do not.
that was decided by an official that made a mistake. I wouldn't feel good about it, but that's just me. Let them have the kick, let them see, and if you can block the kick, then you win the game. But just because they don't give you the opportunity doesn't necessarily mean you won the game. I don't like it. I'm just letting you know how I feel about it.
Well, hopefully somebody's going to review the situation out there that we can draw that from online. Otherwise, I'm going to be digging in a rule book to go through all that, just to make sure that I don't like to haphazardly criticize if I don't have the entire situation down and the rules and so forth.
Well, I'm not going to say it's like there was 6 seconds left and like, oh, why didn't they call? It wasn't that, but how much time do you need to call a timeout? I guess is what it boils down to. If it's less than 1 second, then they're okay. If you need at least a second, then they're SOL. So it might just be about the time between the end of the play and the time needed to actually call the timeout would be the deciding factor, I guess. And if there's no difference between the two, then they were screwed out of the, and if there is, then it was a bad call to run. That's just my opinion. I don't know that I'm right about it, but. And then the other thing I want to say, Mark, if it doesn't, some of these people calling in, I'm sorry, and I know I'm not the best caller, but I don't know how you put up with some of the stuff they bring up. It's like, I don't want to talk about how do they know better than the people actually out on the field? I know I don't. And like, oh, they should spike the ball. You know what? You have to get your football team up to the line. It takes time to do all that. Get them up to the line, have the official tell you when to spike it, and then, when you spike it, that doesn't happen right away. And there's a lot of things that can go wrong with the spike. It's not going to just, you don't tell the official you're going to spike it, first of all. You could drop the ball, which I think has happened before. They make it sound like, well, so all they had to do was spike it and they ran 6 seconds. Well, I know it's not really a play. Spiking the ball isn't a play.
It's not a play, Chris, but it was a valid criticism because there was 30 some seconds left in the game and there were no timeouts for that particular team, South Carolina, to take. And they ran a play. The ball was batted. It was caught by an offensive lineman. He should have just intentionally dropped the ball, but he wasn't thinking, and I don't blame him for that. And yes, the next play by the quarterback should have been to spike the football.
Well, that's a waste of down. That's not a play. I don't even know that spike.
Yeah, but if you don't have any time, it doesn't matter how many plays you have if you've got 0 on the clock.
Well, I tend to disagree that all these armchair quarterbacks, I think they ought to maybe read a rule book before they call you. I don't know. I'm not that way to really as a person, Mark, but they know so much better than the coaches, I guess. Maybe some of these people that call in, let's put them in charge of let's see how much better they do instead of Ryan Day or whoever you want to throw in there. Oh yeah.
Well, my approach to all this, Chris, is that I am very reserved in my criticism of what happens on the field in regards to time management, game management, play calling, all those things, officiating. But that doesn't mean I don't criticize when I am fully convinced that that individual or whomever's involved were negligent.
Well, again, you asked about that, whether it was a pass interference. I guess it might depend on what a pass interference is. It looked like the Ohio State, it was more of an intimidation, really. But, you take the chance of it being called. So it negated I don't remember, you probably know, but it negated what would have been a forward completion that might have put them in position to win the game. But then again, I was surprised Oregon took that field goal attempt. They were so close. I mean, you could call it a chip shot, but the angle was really weird on it. I was kind of thinking to myself, and he hit it right down the middle. But I'm thinking, that's a chance. Why didn't Oregon? I think a team that wants to win, if you're inside the 1 yard line, I don't care if it's fourth and it's against Ohio State. That's not playing for the win, in my opinion. I mean, maybe that's
it's not playing for the win.
No,
they won the game.
There's a lot of things that can go
wrong.
The
decision they made led to the game winner. They just were stopped for no gain on the previous play. They were in a 4th and goal at about the 2 yard line. Yes, they could have went for the gusto and they could have scored the touchdown, and that would have forced Ohio State to have to score a touchdown. You are completely right. That would have been more so ensured the win, but you have to actually make the touchdown. You have to score the touchdown. And the common sense move is to kick the field goal and ensure the points.
Not in my opinion. I think
okay.
You're that close. If you can't score from inside the 1 or whatever, you don't deserve to win. So it worked. I guess tip of the hat to the Oregon Dan Lanning or whatever, but that's not what I would have done. And you can say I'm stupid, maybe even be right about it, but you want to win, you go for the win. You don't go for we have a 50-50 chance of making a field goal or whatever it is. That's if it doesn't.
Okay. Very quickly, Chris, and we'll take the next call or get to anything else you'd like to discuss real quick. But just to review this situation in the Alabama-South Carolina game. South Carolina recovered an onside kick at the Alabama 49. There were 33 seconds left in the game. They inadvertently completed a pass to an offensive lineman for 2 yards. So the clock continued to run because they did not spike the ball. They did not snap the ball for another 20 seconds from 33 to 13. I guarantee that play that they snapped at 33 seconds was over by 28 seconds. They could have snapped the ball by about the 23 or 4 second point on the clock and saved themselves anywhere from 10 or 12 seconds. And it was only second down. So that's what they needed to do. That's what they should have done.
I don't know. That's armchair quarterbacking, and he might be right about it, but I don't know that I'm not sure if that's a good strategy or not. I mean, yeah, it stops the clock.
Of course it's a good strategy.
If it works, anything's a good strategy if it works.
No,
I mean,
that's not correct.
well, what makes a good strategy then?
Sound logic. It doesn't matter how many downs you have left if you have no time.
I understand that too. I don't know. I just there was enough time, I think, for Ohio State to kick. I mean, that's my point. I don't know if they would have made it. Maybe they don't. Maybe it gets blocked. I don't know. But there was enough time for them to at least try it, and they didn't get the opportunity. I don't know. Who do you want to blame that on? You're blaming it on the
Chris. Do you have anything else?
Well, sure, if you want to talk, but if you don't want to, I guess I don't.
Well, we've already reviewed the situation you brought up. I don't know what else there is to say. You've already gone over it a number of times.
I didn't see Alabama and South Carolina. I don't know what happened there. I don't really know what to tell you about that.
You're the one commenting on it.
No, I didn't like some of these people that call in and say, oh, all they had to do was, tell me, I want to know, for example, how many games these people have played in, or they really know. My guess would be probably 0, but yet they know exactly what to do. Okay, well, let's put them in the charge of the operation then. Okay.
Chris, the only thing I'll say about that is that there are a number of situations in life in which you don't have to hold a job to still be critical of somebody who holds that position.
Yeah, I maybe understand that a little bit.
Now, you should take into consideration that you've never held that job. However, we're veering way off track. Is there anything on the college football day that you'd like to discuss?
Yeah, but it doesn't sound like you're going to let me do it, so I guess I won't.
We've already reviewed this Ohio State timing situation.
There's all this guessing about, I think this team, I think that, like that guy wasting so much time telling me about how they think that Ohio State, well, you know what? I already know that Ohio State was the best team. You don't have to be asking all these people 100 questions about who do you think the best team was? Well, I think today showed that it was, I think I kind of knew that before. I mean, I'm sorry to be so sarcastic, Mark, but, we don't have to guess about any of this stuff. Ohio State was the number 1 team. They just got beat by the number 3 team. Texas I had at number 2, and it really has nothing to do with me. But it's like all this stupid comments about, now we showed that, I kind of knew that already, but I guess that's okay that you can, and it'll be different this week. I don't know. My guess it'll be Oregon number 1, but it's not because of anything I'm doing. I mean, that's just the way the numbers add up, but you don't seem to want to give me credit for it. So nobody else.
You know what I'm going to do right now, Chris? I'm going to give you all the credit in the world as the greatest college football commentator who ever lived. That is the credit and recognition I am now bestowing on you. How about that?
I don't know that I deserve it, Mark. I'm just saying.
No. You do deserve it. You absolutely do deserve it, Chris.
I don't think I do, but my point is.
No. You are being too humble. You deserve it.
I went to school. I kind of know how to add a couple numbers together and find out who the best team is, but
that's it.
Nobody seems to want to listen. It was Ohio State.
We have been listening for the last 15 minutes or so. Chris, thank you so much for the call. You know that you are welcome to call anytime, but we are going to move it on tonight. Thank you so much for the call. Let's keep it rolling here at the Voice of College Football. And once again, as soon as this Ole Miss-LSU games goes final, I know this is a lot to keep track of. We are ending this stream and we are doing our Ole Miss-LSU post game because I got caught in a situation that we need to handle in that manner. Then I'll be back to finish up our call-in show. All right, let's go to Michigan Man.
Hey, how you doing, Mark? Yeah, man, this is just a weird year of college football. I think and this is my opinion, I think it's the biggest down year in college football history, where there is no juggernaut. Maybe Texas is the only one, honestly, at this point. But it's a bunch of teams that are good, but can really lose to anybody. All the typical blue bloods can lose to anybody. Do you agree with that?
Well, I think, again, we are somewhat downplaying the equity of previous years. I don't know when the last time there was a true juggernaut who could not be stopped by anyone. Nebraska is the last team in 1995 who went through a season and was not challenged by anyone.
Yeah, that's true. I guess when I say juggernaut, it's a team that, by this point in the season, you watch and you go, damn, if a team beats, I have a tough time seeing a team beat that team, or they're elite on both sides of the ball. They clearly are the cream of the crop type thing. I don't see that this year.
Who did we
Maybe
see last
Texas.
year? Who did we see last
Michigan.
year after 7 weeks that nobody could beat?
Oh, Michigan for sure was the cream of the crop last year.
Good Lord. You watched a different season than I did. Are we talking about the team that needed overtime to beat Alabama and needed some kind of fluke play inside the 5 or 10 yard line on a punt to win that game?
Well, you asked after 7 weeks. I would definitely say
after 7 weeks
people
they
were saying that they were the cream of the
anybody.
crop.
After
Yeah,
7
that's
weeks,
true.
Yeah, so
But I think
I'm just telling you that I don't think this season's as quite as unique as people think it is. I hear this every year out of people that are going crazy about thinking that the results are so topsy-turvy. And I would say that we have had some topsy-turvy type results.
Yeah, but Mark, here's the thing. Like in the playoffs, I think a juggernaut or a team that is clearly seen as the best team in college football, and there's a gap. I think they can have tight games. You know what I'm saying? Like even some of the best, except maybe 2019 LSU, in the playoffs they're gonna have tight games. But at this point in the season, I can't remember going through the list. Let's go Georgia, Alabama, FSU, Notre Dame. We could go down the whole list of typical teams that at this point in the season look like dominant forces in the game, and they're just not that this year. But yeah, we can move on from that.
We're gonna have to wrap up here real quick. Keep going. We're gonna.
Yeah, I'll make it quick, man. Here's my thing about the Ohio State game. I thought Oregon was clearly the better team in my opinion. I thought they left several points on the board. They had a clear missed wide open touchdown on that fourth and goal. They missed multiple extra points. They missed a field goal. Really, I don't even think Ohio State should have been in position at the end of that game to even win the game. That's just my opinion on that. And in terms of the defense, I mean, they've taken actually, in my opinion, a huge step back from last year. I don't know what's going on with the defense. They brought back all these players, but they're not playing as good as they did last year. I don't know why you think that is, but
they have generally played as well or better statistically until tonight. Yeah, they did not have a good game tonight. The secondary looked awful tonight, and they didn't put enough heat on Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah, but again, and this is where you bring competition into it. Even against Marshall, for example, we saw huge holes in that defense, and mainly it's it was in the front seven. Now we're even seeing holes in the secondary. So I don't know if it's a coaching thing. They're still a really good defense. Don't get me wrong. They're just not at the level that, in my opinion, they were at the last 2 years. And I don't know if it's that because you lost Eichenberg. Is it the linebackers? I don't know what it is, but I don't think we can say at this point that they're anywhere near what they've been the last 2 years. In terms of defensively, I actually think the offense is actually me. I think they're a little more balanced, but the defense. Go ahead.
You were cutting out.
Go ahead, my bad.
Okay, we're having some issues there. All right, we've got to end the stream here, as we've announced a number of times during the show in our 1 hour here. So we've got to crank up the Ole Miss LSU postgame. That's going to be right here on the Voice of College Football on the main channel. So you can join us there. And I will be back in probably 30 to 40 minutes to continue this fine call-in show with all of you. So we appreciate you being here. And again, just keep it right here on the main channel. We're going to do some Ole Miss LSU postgame. And then we are going to be back here about 30 or 40 minutes from now.